Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here tonight. I was in a classic mood the other day, sitting here trying to figure out what the heck I was going to watch on TV. And I went scrolling through the WWE Network, and the one thing that hit me in the feels was Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event is something that early on in the early days of the WWE Network, I was scrolling down. I was watching a few of these through 1987. All of them, were headlining WrestleMania 3, coming out of WrestleMania 3 into the Survivor Series. And somewhere along the way, we stopped. I don't think I've ever done a review of the Saturday night's main event 3-disc set that came out in the later part of the 2000s. But Saturday night's main event was like watching a pay-per-view as a kid. You had to stay up late on a Saturday. It didn't start until 11:30. It wasn't, every month, but it was a few times a year. NBC let WWF have Saturday Night Live's time slot to run from 11:30 until 1 o'clock. As a kid watching this right here, I would be 6 years old. I don't have the best memories of these ones from 1988. I can honestly tell you, I don't think I ever saw this Hogan match until later in my tape trader days. But there are later Saturday night's main events. I remember the main events with Buster Douglas refereeing the Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan rematch from WrestleMania 5. A lot of like tag team matches to set up SummerSlams. They were like, you had to remember what day it was. You had to remember to stay up, and you had to have the power, to stay up all the way until 1 a.m. in the morning to watch these. As a kid, there was nothing better than this. I honestly picked this one out of the blue. It's the March 12th episode from 1988. I don't really know what number episode that is, but it was the first episode after the first edition of the main event. That one is big rolling into this one because it sort of set up what WrestleMania 4 would come to be. That, of course, is the one with Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant in the rematch from WrestleMania 3. It's when Ted DiBiase paid for the plastic surgeries. We had the twin referees in the ring, the fast count on Hulk Hogan covering Andre the Giant covering Hulk Hogan. We had the title change. We had Andre the Giant announcing Ted DiBiase as the WWF Tag Team Champion of the World. Basically, Ted DiBiase was buying the title. Because of what happened in the ring, Jack Tunney couldn't reverse the decision, but he held the title up in limbo. During this Saturday night's main event, Hulk Hogan is treated as the champion, even though he doesn't have the belt. They don't really know where they're going, but they end up coming up with an idea of having a tournament at WrestleMania 4. It's a really long 2 VHS set. I was always scared to rent it at Blockbuster. I did try and rent it for the first time by only grabbing one of the tapes, the disc 1, thinking that they would just rent me that one, and then the next weekend I would come back and I would get the tape to finish it. I didn't know that there was one price to rent both, but I didn't want to push my luck going up to the register and then bringing me up and it being twice as much as it normally was, and my dad being like, forget it. If you can't pick one, we're not getting any at all. I think many kids can understand that one. But this is a really good one. We don't know where we're going at WrestleMania yet, but if you're watching this and you know what WrestleMania 4 is, all of these matches are set up, just right out of there. We have a straight tournament finale match on here. And I think it's probably stands up as one of the best Saturday night's main events that I've ever seen. From there, we're going to go to a match of Hulk Hogan against King Harley Race. When it comes to Hulk Hogan matches, a lot of people watch matches of the past and say, you know what? Hulk Hogan really wasn't that good of a guy. You know, he took shots at Sensational Sherry, basically punched her with a closed fist. You know, he basically was hugging on his best friend's girl and Miss Elizabeth. You know, he bit guys. He clawed them in the eyes. He rolled guys up with the tights. He did what he had to do to win. But when you really look at it, he wasn't the best babyface in the world. This match right here, Hulk Hogan is not Hulk Hogan. He basically fights this fight as Hollywood Hulk Hogan, as you would see him during the NWO days of the NWO during WCW. We see a different side of Hulk Hogan. He is determined. He's upset. He's feel like his title has been stripped. It's been stolen from him. He was cheated, and he's taken the wrist tape off of his wrist, balling him up on his fist. He's choking Harley Race with him. It's just a different style of Hulk Hogan match that honestly I've ever seen at this time period. Jesse Ventura is trying to get involved with the microphone. He's calling him out for all the ways that he's cheating, and he actually goes after Joey Marella as being a bad referee for letting as much stuff go. During this match, we have a first in WWF, probably, and in televised wrestling. During the first match, a table is sat out at ringside with, I believe, 2 chairs up underneath it. It caught my eye because of its position in the middle of the ring. And I was like, man, that's kind of weird setup right there. I know that they have the commentating table in the old place that it was basically set up next to the entrance. I know that it's kind of weird they don't have the announcer sitting there. It's kind of weird they don't have the timekeeper sitting there. And then as the match goes on and the fight goes to the outside, I see them all sitting at a different table off to the side in the corner as they do today still. So I'm kind of like trying to put it together. Like, are they having like some sort of guest judges later in the night to see it? But at one point, Hulk Hogan falls down to the table. He's laying on top of it, and he's out of it for a second. And King Harley Race performs a diving headbutt. Not from a turnbuckle. He wasn't, out of the world crazy because they weren't doing stunts like that at the time. But he does kind of like the Ric Flair style, like fall down bump, where he just kind of like walk, and just like throws his body out there. And Hogan gets out of the way. He jumps up off the table. Basically, Race takes the bump right there. On the table. It doesn't crack, it doesn't break. I think he just kind of hits it and he falls off and falls over. But for WWF, we had never seen anything like that. From there, it's basically the normal end of a Hulk Hogan match. Basically with Hogan, getting the leg drop and getting the 1, 2, 3. A really entertaining match. It was very quick pace, a lot of action outside of the ring. Hulk Hogan's rage over losing the championship or not having the title. I don't understand why the King's crown didn't change hands. Little be known that Harley Race had come from the NWA. He had his battles with Ric Flair at Starrcade. He was one of, the biggest stars that the NWA had, and he came to finish his career in WWF, basically kissing the ring and working for Vince. But he wasn't the champion at the time. It wasn't like a Ric Flair bringing the title over during the 1992 run or anything like that. This was weird because of the fact that the crown, the king of wrestling, was normally, if you beat that guy, especially pinned him in the middle of the ring, you became the king. That's how Duggan became the king. That's why at WrestleMania 3, Junkyard Dog gets so mad that he doesn't beat Harley Race. That's how Macho King Randy Savage came to be. That's how King Haku came to be. Who was I guess the last king was the Macho King for the longest time. But it was like, that was almost like a championship at the time. Why was Hulk Hogan cheated out of being the king of the WWF? Really big match, really, really good.